you guys are in this panel, so definitely pushed us to want to make this into a series. Yeah. So we are live streaming now from Native Books and Arts and Letters here in Nu'uanu, Maluopo Waina, and I want to start off with introducing our panelists. But yeah, if you guys have any questions during the panel, feel free to put it in the chat, and we will answer some Q&A at the end. But yeah, here with us today, we have Akea Kahikina, Paige Okamura, and Maluhia and Emily States. So Paige and Akea were for the Kumu Olelo Hawaii for the free ASUH class, and Akea is a graduate student, yeah, in theater, in master's graduate student in theater, right? As well as one of the many stars of O'Aia.
Thank you.
And Paige, you may know her by another name, DJ Merms, and was the former host, yeah, for KTUH Olelo Hawaii show, where she shared Mele Hawaii as well as Mo'olelo Hawaii. And for Emily and Maluhia, former classmate, one of them, as well as, Instagram, content people. Yeah, whether it be the nonprofit side as well as the commercial side. But sharing Olelo Hawaii content in the form of reels, as well as, shorter videos with the Lahui. And yeah, aloha and welcome. Aloha. And I just wanted to start off, I guess, by opening the floor with you guys sharing your Olelo Hawaii journey, where you guys started off and maybe where you are now. Yeah.
Who's first? Eyes, or who's gonna do it? Who's gonna go?
In alphabetical order.
I mean, you're making me. Aloha me kako o Akea kahikina ko inoa. No hona uluri mai au, no hoa makuli o. She's a moment, she's an icon, she's everything. So with Olelo Hawaii, I did not grow up speaking it in the home. Last Monoleo in my family was my kupuna hine kuakahi maka o makuakane, and I didn't have a very close relationship with her either. But upon her passing, there was kind of this iini in me that, I don't know, it just was maikapo mai a little bit to I can't let that get away from the ohana. So from there, I took it upon myself to learn it in school at Kamehameha. And then after moving to America for school, she was like, there's no one to talk to. Where are we? Who are we? Going back, started relearning at UH. And then through UH, met Kumu Paige, and we are Ua Hawaii, Ke Olino Nei, and starting to work on that in scripts with Hanakiaka, trying to normalize and re-normalize Olelo, as I like to say, as much as possible. So that's my journey in a Sparks Notes. She's done. Period.
Aloha mai kako o Paige, Miki Kalau Kanani Kia Okamura. He Keiki Papavau no Maya Waialua, which today we all mostly know as Haleiwa. I think like Akea and probably 90% of the Lahui, Hawaii, I grew up in a Hawaiian household, but not speaking Hawaiian outside of your everyday phrases. And so I am a product of 2 generations worth of sort of, that colonized mindset, that Hawaiian and things, Hawaiian language, the stuff we do at home maybe, but it wasn't gonna make us successful in this society. So I was privileged, and I have to be really clear. I think that for us, sometimes learning Hawaiian is a privilege. So I was privileged enough to learn Hawaiian in high school because it was offered as a, quote, foreign language. But, growing up, I was so clear that I was Hawaiian. I just didn't have that language component. I did hula, so I think certain foundational pieces were there. And then I did really well Wakapapo Lelo Hawaii, and then I thought, well, here we go. And then I went to UH Manoa. I have my bachelor's degree in Hawaiian language, working on the master's still. And but yeah, and so here we are. I do so many things based out of our language. So yeah, I do the radio thing, I do the DJ thing, but we also teach now, which I think is that nice circular economy of Olelo Hawaii. So mahalo for having me.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. Mahalo ke kona ana mai o maluhia mana o wahine o ka mua. Ano haururu no pa o ia o lele ko ma ko no ana arewo I hanau ia ma Hawaii ni hanai ia ma ka aina e ma Amerika ka mea ka mokopuni e iwa e no kone no e Nevada. Let's see, our journey in learning the language, I guess we can kind of tell it together because it's one and the same. So we got married 2015, and then at some point we were talking about having kids. After you get married, sometimes people do that. So we were talking about that, and she mentioned that she's like, I want our kids to speak Hawaiian, and I was like, what? I don't speak, and I don't think you do. But she did 2 years at Kamehameha. So we just started learning while we were there in the mainland continent, in America. So we were there just learning from books and everything that we could get online, anything available, for maybe 9 months. And then we came back. I registered to go to Windward Community College. My first teacher was supposed to be Keoki Faria, so some people may know him. But I wanted to meet him before the class, so I went to talk to him the day before. And I tried to speak as much Hawaiian as I could. At the end of that, he asked me, where did you learn Hawaiian? And I said, well, we learned it at home with my wife. And I kept talking, and he said, wait, what do you mean? And then I said, I had to tell him that story. I'm not going to tell it again. And then he told me I could basically take a test and then get into that 102. So I never took the 101. Long story short, this is going on, yeah? I'm dragging on here. Eventually went to UH Manoa, where I met these lovely people here. So I kind of got to learn the language at home. Before I took classes in school, I got to speak with speakers outside in the community, and then I finally took classes from my first teacher, which was Kahikina De Silva at UH Manoa 401. So shout out to Kumu. That's, I guess, the shortest I can make it. And maybe you'd like to add on if there's anything left.
Aloha no kako wau o Emily no kailua mayau no ho mako ma kailua I ki ia manawa. I'm a mother of 2. I went to Kamehameha, and so I grew up in Kailua, so there's stereotypes about Kailua, and they are kind of true. I didn't learn Hawaiian in my home. I actually didn't dance hula. I didn't have much to do with my Hawaiian genealogy growing up, but then when I went to Kamehameha, that's kind of where like a door opened, and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm Hawaiian, and that means so much. So unfortunately at Kamehameha, at the time I was there, I didn't learn Hawaiian fluently, and I didn't dance hula, but the pride was instilled inside of me that being Hawaiian meant something special. And so going to college, I didn't really take much with me, but I spent time living in the Philippines. I lived there for 1.5 years. And when I lived there and I saw a place that everyone knew their language and they had a very unique culture, that sparked something inside of me of like, oh, I want something like this in my home, in my life. And so when I moved back and I met this guy, he had a similar experience in Africa. When we were talking about having kids, it just kind of popped in my head. I was like, hey, we both have learned languages before, so why don't we learn Hawaiian since that's our common thread? We want to live in Hawaii, and so why don't we try it? And so we tried it. He was the one who fell in love with the studying of the language, and I'm definitely more I like to use it. It's a social thing for me. I like to be a part of the community of speakers, but he's definitely took my idea and pushed it for our family to where it is today. So
yeah, mahalo nui, and I feel like
for a lot of us, that's the end goal, to be, you know, in a community, a large Oahu, where everybody knows their language. And that's what all of you, as a lot of other people out there in the community, are striving for right now. So thank you for sharing your background, because I mean, where everybody starts off is, you know, everybody gonna start somewhere. So mahalo. And I guess I wanted to ask Paige and Kaia to share more about how Wow Hawaii started.
I guess I'll do it.
Yes.
So Wow Hawaii, interestingly enough, started off as an idea from a non-Hawaiian. An ASUH senator, Ryan Rafid, he is from Bangladesh, and he's a student at UH, but in an interesting mindset. He kind of thought that by coming to Hawaii, he would hear and learn Hawaiian, because when you go to a country, right, like you go to Japan, you know you're going to hear Japanese, and in order to communicate, you're going to have to learn a little bit. And so I guess he was a little shocked to come here, and it's interesting because he tells us, like, well, nobody speaks Hawaiian here. Which is not true. It's the circles you run in, for sure. But we do know that it's not laha enough to where any malihini can come here and they won't hear it. You know, outside of the big aloha sign at the airport and your street signs, right? Like you don't hear it, basically. And so he had the idea of, well, what would it take if we just had classes and they were free? And of course, like for ASUH, the goal is for all university students, especially the undergrads, but why not open it up? And this was a very pre-pandemic time. Right. So long story short, they looked for interest. I think I was consulted early on to see like what my thoughts were on the possibility of doing free community classes. And it's not the first. You know, there have been a handful before us. And I have to admit that I was a little doubtful, I think, for a lot of reasons. I wasn't sure if students were actually going to commit. Mm-hmm. You know, I wasn't sure that people were going to come, but I said, okay, they got the funding for it. And our department was asked for a list of grad students who might be interested. And so I asked Kaia if he would teach it with me. And thankfully he said yes. And we planned for maybe 40. I mean, that's my expectation level. That's how low it was.
That's not what showed up.
This is 1,000% not what showed up. Times 10 showed up.
Times 15, yeah.
Yeah, we thought 30, 40 at max. But we had 300 people show up on the first day. And first class, and pretty consistently about 200 after that. So when we were in person, right? And so that's how the class started, and it really came out of a very grassroots mindset of what are the resources at the university. And even though it was like intended for students, the fact that it was open to non-students was a great thing. But also I would say 80% of our students, our haumana that came, were kupuna. And kupuna Hawaii, that were never privileged, given the opportunity or resources to learn their own language. So that's how it started. And then I think Kaia can talk about how we've been moving in pandemic times.
Right.
Yeah. So after, this was kind of like midway through our in-person classes, March 24th or around that time hit, and we're like, how do we do this? And we had such a great momentum of a lot of people coming in, and it was amazing to see such difference between the generations of haumana. And I like to think, like, with kupuna, because they haven't had the same opportunities as Opio do today in the access, it's kind of like when you have a pool at your house, which I've never had, but like you never really appreciate it. But if someone else comes to your house, like, oh my God, this house is amazing. Like, you know, for kupuna, it's like they've never had that kind of environment where people around are saying, I'm proud to speak this. I'm proud to be Kanaka. I'm proud to have this space. So when we had that, it was difficult because we were kind of wary about, oh, will our kupuna be able to log on Zoom? Not a lot of them are to that. But luckily, when we started to switch to Zoom, we had like thousands of people come in. I think in the first 3, we had about 30,000 or something like that. Kaleo said, so about 10,000 per per class, which is like all around the world now. People are like wanting to learn it, which is amazing. At the same time, we got so many connections, yet we weren't able to connect like face to face, yalo heyalo, which is what we really miss about our class so far. So just this last semester, we started bringing people into the Zoom room to kind of connect again. There was like a consistent like maybe 3 or 4, but we know other people are out there in the Facebook comments and doing the homework and stuff that we do in class. But it's amazing to see just the differences of kupuna to opio being in the same room and learning. And that first day was just like, oh my gosh, wow. We only had like maybe 10 dictionaries. We're like, it's fine. Like they can share. We go into the small room and we're trying to like move through all these people like jam-packed pa'apu in this hallway. And we're like, who are these people? Like, where are they?
I don't know if you like grasped that they were there for the class, but I didn't because I was running late. And I was running late and I was like very tunnel vision, like I need to get there. And I was kind of weaving my way through. And I just, in the time, I thought people were coming and going from class.
And they didn't look like students. We were just like, oh my God, excuse us. We need to get to our room.
And
then we're like,
and I realized, all these people are trying to fit in this room.
So improv, we were like, what the heck do we do? Turn real quick and we're like, can we open the ballroom? No seats. No
seats. Everybody had to sit on the floor.
The ballroom was not ready. The category is no noho. And we go in and we all sit on the floor. We're like, sorry, but we didn't think people would be interested, but apparently not. Ole ka, here we are. So.
And I think it's been interesting to see, like, not only through the pandemic, but just like how like Kumu Olelo Hawaii, as well as just the community in the Lahu are starting to figure out that there are like different ways, different technologies to share Olelo, which is a good segue for Emily and Maluhia. What you guys sharing, like, just those short, sweet, super concise and effective, like Olelo videos that, are able to, teach the community, whether it be like a single sentence structure or a scenario in which you would use it with your keiki. So yeah, if you can share a little bit more about that.
But what I do on social media, I just make a fool of myself, really. Like every time I make a video, I'm like, I don't know why I'm putting this out there. But it wasn't because I thought that much of myself. I think I've had a few, what was that term? A few nails people that they DM me. That's the term, yeah. They send me DMs once in a while.
I
just
like text Maluhia.
Now I know who it is. Shoot, I forgot what I'm saying. But yeah, I have that too. Yeah, there's a light and a dark to everything. There's balance in the force. Anyways, so yeah, when I put those videos out, a lot of it was just on request. I initially just started to do it because there wasn't a lot of content that I knew of when I started learning, and I was searching for a lot of new content. I mean, we have recordings of native speakers done in the 70s. That was Kaleo Hawaii. Kaleo Hawaii was done again in the 90s, right? So there's some major resources that we have, but as far as new content, there wasn't too much. There was some, but I was always looking for some. So a lot of the reason why I started doing that was, one, because she told me I should. So it wasn't necessarily an original. It wasn't necessarily an original idea.
It's a powerful one.
I was always looking for content when I was like the early days of me learning, year 1, year 2, and there was just I wasn't satisfied or happy with what was around. So I was like, well, if nobody's gonna do it, then I will do it. There's nobody else, you guys. There's nobody else to do it, so I just started to do it. And I give you guys props because you guys like teach, and you give actual lessons. I struggle with that, even though I am a teacher at WCC. I should have did that in my introduction.
RateMyProfessor.com. Where are we?
Absolutely.
I struggle with that because, like, similar to her, I wanted to learn the language and use it, and that's one thing. But then to learn it and then give it to somebody else, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot out of you. So the videos that I put out, I try to make them a little different than what I experienced in school, which was very structured, and I don't like school anyway, so I get bored really easy. And that I feel bad for my students even. Yeah, I try to make it entertaining, the content that I put out, a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so here and there. The joke lands once in a while. So it's just really similar to what I was saying with, like, we had some resources, some old resources, but I wanted to get it out there. I mean, you guys are doing an amazing job, right? You're reaching thousands of people around the world. I want to just get it out to whoever is willing to watch or listen. I mean, that's all you can do. And I don't think there's one person, we can use o lelo no ea o ya, aare pau ka ike ka halau o kahi. So you've got a halau right here, you've got another one right here. And that's how we can really move the language, right? It's not going to be one person, although we have some in the community who would like to be the one. But it's a group thing, right? That's true. Short and concise. Okay, anyways.
There a
We got to do it
disclaimer
together. Got to do it
Disclaimer.
together.
She's like, give it to me now.
I don't know if I can salvage that.
No, I don't even have the album.
Oh no. What do I even say to that? What was the question?
Talking about the content that you push out. I mean, your art that you're wearing today, and
Yeah.
I'm repping.
So I guess, like what he said, so our company's name is Ko'ulumaika, and it was started because everything happens when you have kids. Life kind of changes in a lot of ways. But we were learning Hawaiian. We started to speak it enough to each other. We were going to have a child, and we're like, hey, this was his idea. He's like, I want our children to have things in Olelo Hawaii that aren't mixed, but are in Olelo and don't have a pineapple, and just like things that were like as we started learning, he really wanted to capture Hawaiian thought and all of these things. So he knew that I like to doodle and do art. I didn't go to school for it at all. So he was like, hey, why don't you make some stuff for our kids? And so I did that, and I loved it. And then I just kind of kept designing and creating things. But along the way, I found that every time I put out any sort of content, because I like to share my story. I like to just kind of share my journey, and that's what I do on social media. I found that people, every time I posted like one thing, they loved, like they wanted more, and it was so interesting to me because I felt the same way every time I learned something new about the Hawaiian culture. Every time I went to a new heiau or a lo'i or anything in my entire life, anytime I went to those places, I felt connected. I wanted to know more, and so I found that social media was a good conduit for that connection to people, that they could learn more. And so we started out not knowing much, but we shared what we knew. And Malu, like I said before, very quickly took off in just studying everything Hawaiian language. She still does. It's just crazy. It drives me nuts sometimes in a good way. So I told him, because I really like the creative side, the art side, and he really liked the Hawaiian language side. So I pushed him to make the content that people could learn from and relate to, and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think each of your guys' platforms, they're so unique, and it's like everybody has a different learning style. So some, want to go into a full class, be able to take notes and stuff, and others, maybe they don't have the time to sit in a full class, but they want to be able to learn something just real short and sweet, and or they even have super specific questions, okay, in this scenario, what would I be able to use? And I feel like that's how you develop a lot of the content that you push out, also from personal questions that are coming in. You're always saying oh, I got some questions in a DM, and pushing out these questions. So I think, yeah, the different learning styles that are out there and the different kinds of content that you guys are pushing out now is for all of the different styles of learning out there. So it's really awesome. But yeah, I think, Emily, I wanted to touch a little bit more how you were saying that when you were sharing your experience with people, how they were able to feel connected. And I want to, share a little bit. Kalamai. Yeah, but ask you guys, like, when you were starting out or even till today, like, are there still some reservations that you guys have or fears that you think that the community still have and are struggling with in terms of learning Olalo?
Do you want to answer that first? Well, actually, I wanted to say something when you were talking. I too wanted to say thank you to Ake and Paige for what they do, because being a teacher really is so hard. We've kind of tried it.
Profession out there.
Yeah, it's really, it takes a lot to give that knowledge, and it's not even we found that, or I guess I can't speak for him, he said it earlier, but for me, it's not where my heart is in necessarily teaching, but I love creating, I love sparking interest, and I feel like our content is let's just get them interested in it, and hopefully then they can find people who are teaching it, because I think a lot of times people they just don't even know what's possible or what's out there. So get them interested and then bring them to the wonderful souls who have the patience and love to teach. It's a labor of love.
How much patience I actually have.
Makahana ka Ike on that one. Yeah.
Reservations, your question was about, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess that's a good segue into sparking people's interest. I think one thing is that Hawaiians have come from a lot of shame. I don't want to fix my words if they come out wrong, but in the generations before ours, it was shameful to speak Hawaiian, and I mean, even in my own family, it's the reason why none my father and his father don't speak. My tutu spoke, but through the generations, it was kind of taught in schools and in the community that you shouldn't speak Hawaiian, you shouldn't do these things, and hula was shameful. Lots of things were shameful about Hawaiian language and culture, and that has carried on. So I think even for me, a really big holdback is that we feel that shame as Hawaiians, even if no one said it to our face. It's just kind of something that we have been carrying throughout the generations. So I think that spreads into a lot of people's fears in learning the language.
I guess to add to that, there's the shame, and then there's the embarrassment when you do try. And I was talking about some people, they kind of cause trouble to people that are beginning to learn. I've witnessed it. I fortunately have not, well, actually I have been, I guess, a victim of it too. You can't avoid that, right? With anything that you're learning or trying to do, there's going to be people that are going to try to tear you down, even though it's a good thing, right? It makes me even more upset when you have Hawaiian to another Hawaiian. That makes me even more upset. But it's kind of a bad culture, I guess, in the Hawaiian community, language community that I had to find after learning the language, because I wasn't exposed to it at all. So that one is, I don't know how big that community is, but it exists. And people that have contacted me about that through social media and stuff, I just give them the same kind of advice that I do to everybody else, which is, just don't listen to them. Because most people that are advocates for the language want you to keep learning. So you have to push past that. I think those are, the main ones that we hear personally, I guess. When people message me about things they struggle with in learning the language, is a lot of, I feel shame when I'm at a park and I'm speaking and I get all these funny looks. And I say, we know exactly what that's like, because when we take our kids there and we're talking, you either get interesting, what is that language? And then you have a nice conversation. Or I know exactly what that is, and I don't know why you're using that useful language here. And then you'll have different conversations like that. So all those things exist. I think it's important for us, regardless of all the other obstacles that we have, that we put out positive content, and that we encourage people more than we, what's the other word? Encourage? Discourage. Very good. Kamehameha graduate. Not one. Anyways, I think that's all I have on that. I'm sure you guys have.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, what's funny is that for our second semester of class, because Emily is so willing to share things. She puts her clip art for free, and I used her clip art for all of our PowerPoints.
It's a
Because
small
Emily
world
makes
after
beautiful
all.
things.
It's a kaku thing, guys.
And I think, yeah, so it's always funny how like we,
More, thank you.
yes, girl, put it out because we need it. We
Because
use
we're like,
it.
and go, and there.
But I think for us, I remember when we started the class, like my biggest thing, day one, or day two even, because we did need a lot of kokua from our department on our students or people who, but I know, like, I remember on the first day, you're situating everybody, and I remember saying, like, specifically to people who were pa'a'e ka olelo yalako, like, he pu'uhonua keia no kia o ana ka ho'omama ana I ka olelo. Like, I don't have room for ho'oyo in here because it's not the time and place, and I felt like it was important for me to make it known that if that's why you came today was just to niele and maha'oi and loi loi, then you're in the wrong place, and I don't have space for you here. But if you came with the intent to help those around you, because we did have a lot of people who were pa'a'e ka olelo yalako, and then your kuleana is even greater because your kuleana is to help the people around you because they came to learn. And I think if you've ever gotten like an email from me personally on my personal email, my email signature is my ho'okamani, which is like, don't be hypocritical. It's shady. But I felt very like when we talk about wanting people to learn, whether we're actively teaching or we're producing content from what we know, then we cannot criticize people for wanting to learn, you know? And I think the things that Emily and Malukia have pointed out are very real, and people come into spaces with different, you know, goals, different with different agendas. And for us, because we're so open to everybody, then yeah, like in one way, right? Like if you learn something in a better way for you, great. Like we are flexible. We try to encourage people. If Duolingo works better for you, then you know that's great. Like whatever you have, we're supportive of in that broad space. But I find sometimes when we interact with each other, I think as a lahui, sometimes becomes an excuse, and an excuse to like criticize somebody or an excuse of why you're right at the same time. And I think the good thing about coming from a halau means you do have rules that you operate in, which I think is also important. I think people kind of awana, and that's what happens. If you don't have a kumu that's going to keep you in check, which is not actually, that's not what Kaia and I do per se in class, but I think for like us, that is important because you have a genealogy of knowledge that you are responsible to. And so that's what keeps you from wondering if you did something right or if you're acting out of turn,
Right.
you know?
I wanted to add to that kind of the feeling of insecurity. I think a lot of that shame that you're talking about, Emily, comes from this idea that if I'm successful at Olelo, or if someone out that I see is successful in this culture of, I see Instagram, I see Facebook, everyone's putting out their best of the best. And when I hear someone successful, it then makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I wish I had that, or like I'm not enough, or this idea that we all kind of face of I'm not Hawaiian enough because I don't olelo, or I don't hula, I don't love, I don't know la'o, or I don't know all these things that seems that everyone else seems to know. And so when we have this kind of kanaka space, you'd assume, oh yeah, we all get it, right? We're all trying to learn. But this idea of I need to prove that I'm Hawaiian to people who are not Hawaiian and be like, this is a real language, this is a real culture, we have a real history. Oftentimes in the time of revitalization, we kind of lose sight of, wait, you're learning right now and I'm learning. We're human, we make mistakes. Like we're Kanaka and we learn through that. There's this pressure to always say everything perfectly, every structure, every ai, every ia, every aku has to be, and I face that every day. Like it has to be perfect. But I mean, as we're humans, like that's what makes us human is we're gonna say an ia where it's not supposed to be an ai and all these
Right.
things. Like, so a reminder for us as we learn and try to renormalize it is we're gonna mess up. But what you're saying, Malihi, about like that fear of making mistakes is so real.
Yeah.
In a time where an insecure Hawaiian is going to be the one to be like, oh my God, like, did you hear? Like, that was so bad or whatever. Those are the people that are really feeling that eha more than anyone else.
Right.
And I think that's the culture we need to really attend to and be like, hey, what is that eha? There's really no talk about ho'oponopono or ho'ona that eha. It's just like, oh, that's just how they are. But there's our kupuna, no, there's hekumo kolaila, like there's a reason you're acting that way. The spiritual health and all that shame that you were saying, Emily, that we were carrying, that's where it manifests. That's where it's like, oh yeah, did you see her? She's trying to like be this or say that. This is like, it's so unnecessary. We're all
Right, and
here.
We all have that uncle, that one uncle or auntie that's like, oh, you're learning Hawaiian. Oh, you can act. Or it's like, and it's like, where's that eha coming from? It's because maybe they never had a chance to learn olelo before. And then, their only way of like appreciating that in you is by like, the little jabs. But that's because, they're acknowledging, wow, okay, you're doing that. And it's like, yeah, it's hurtful sometimes when it's like, oh, you're learning this, I never got to, and then they kind of, whether it's like an argument or like they feel like they have to validate that they haven't had the chance, So I think there's a lot of eha that we as a lahu have to, kind of tackle in terms of learning. And, I feel like just being more empathetic, sympathetic to everybody who's learning, no matter what stage you're at. If you have a PhD, if you everybody starts somewhere. So it's like, I feel like if we can be more like sympathetic, empathetic to everybody, no matter what stage, if you make mistakes, maybe like do a little gentle correction of like, oh yeah, this and that. But like even when manaleo, when you listen to Lipine Manaleo, it's like they use olelo pa'iai. There's a just, there's a so in there and so and start rapping in Hawaiian. So I feel like there's olelo pa'iai, there's olelo Hawaii, there's it's very nuanced, and I feel like meeting everybody where they are and just being able to sympathize with everybody and know that you're gonna make mistakes, I'm gonna make mistakes. As long as we're learning from them and getting better collectively, I feel like that's the goal.
Period. Olelo's a living entity.
Yes.
It's not going to be stuck in this box in the Bishop Museum.
Good. That was the main thing.
Yep.
Right? There was no... What you just said and what came out of your mouth was wrong.
Yeah.
So stop speaking or correct yourself or think again. There was none of that. It was just, okay, sure. They know what level I'm at, obviously. They can hear my mouth and what's coming out. So that was something that when I experienced, or the both of us experienced, that's kind of where that started of, okay, there's obviously some issues in the community of learning the Hawaiian language, and how can we perpetuate what we experienced, which was, and then you mentioned empathy, and I thought of aloha. I was like, empathy, that's aloha, mercy, aloha. We should really maintain that in the circles that we are learning and teaching Hawaiian. Sorry, I just wanted to add on to that.
No, mahalo.
But
Yeah, I feel like, we're in this hale, Native Books, Kawaiwai, and, talking about circles, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, what are some places that you guys nowadays are hearing olelo being spoken, or maybe are not being spoken, but you think should be.
Whatever. She's Pokigishi.
So when we had our first child, we decided we'd only speak Hawaiian to our children, and that when they're babies, you don't say much. So it wasn't so hard. And then as they've grown, we've had to improve our vocab. We've had to grow with them. Whereas we've always been pushing each other, like, we need to speak more Hawaiian. when the kids are around, it's in Hawaiian. But even when we go on dates and other times, sometimes we go to English because that's our love language. We met in English, so English is our language. That's how someone described it to me. I'm like, that is so true. So for me, since I like really never leave the house, I mostly hear Hawaiian in our home. When our kids are present, it's all in Hawaiian. But when we go out and we are good and we choose to speak it, it's interesting. Sometimes we'll get people who speak it to us, or sometimes you'll just get people who are interested. One time, I think we went to Aulani for my mom's birthday, and they have a Olelo room restaurant that's all in Olelo, and that was so cool. That was probably one of the newest experiences. That the waitress was taking our order in Hawaiian. That was like one of the first times that I experienced it out of like the home in a normal setting where people do stuff like that every day.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because I feel like we hear this question in a different way. Like at UH, we always get that question of like, where do you feel like as a Hawaiian space? And I don't like that question. And I answer it the same way every time. Because I feel like we always get surveys about it, right? And I always say, wherever I am is Hawaiian space. Like, what makes this corner of the room Hawaiian and that one not? But I understand that part of that question is asking, where do you feel safe to be yourself, right? And I think that is a very important thing to acknowledge in any space. But I think I'm fortunate to be like very stubborn Aries that I am, that I don't have that same identity issue, like I feel very, very okay in who I am, wherever I am. Although I recognize that, like today, I think one place that's become actually normal to hear Hawaiian is my social media feed. My Instagram is full, and that is, I think, something I take for granted.
A virtual space.
My virtual spaces are full, and maybe because that's who I follow, those are the people I'm around, and the algorithms know it. But if my feed is full, that is a big step because 3 years ago? No, and
Which you both contribute to.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I just post about my dog. I don't know. But, I think when I scroll through my feed, it's great. I wish I heard it a little more. Sometimes I'm happy to see it on the Starbucks menu. I think the kaka'ako, the salt one, Kaneohe in Windward Mall. There's a few that actually make an effort. I am going to admit that sometimes I look at it and I'm like, okay, this needs a little bit of help. But the effort, sometimes I don't bother to correct because I'm just happy to see it. Right. And one thing I actually had this moment not too long ago that I think I wish I heard it more wherever, in the market, whatever. But there are small moments that we take for granted. I was like in Foodland, Waipio, looking for something. And this auntie was trying to get past me. She said, "Kalamai." But how often do I actually hear kalamai in the store?
Yeah.
Like, never. And I almost cried in the store. Like, it's just something I don't know why. Maybe I ma'a to it with you guys, in the Kaiaulu Olelo Hawaii, but not in a broader community. Even small words. I think if people could just eke out instead of excuse, because then I noticed when I was trying to get around people, I'm over here like, excuse me, because that's their language.
Right.
But why didn't I just use my own, So I think in public spaces, even just one word is a win, outside of the normal.
Right.
So I love this question because just a few weeks ago, my fiance Kaimi, he was just really feeling the moi uhane, the moi moia. And he's like, you know what? We watched the film Cousins. Have you guys seen it on Netflix?
No, I haven't seen
I
it
haven't
yet.
watched
So
it yet.
Maori film.
Don't
about,
spoil it for me.
Well, 3 wahine, all related but have 3 different.
Which is based on
kind
a
of-
book.
Based off of the book. I don't know the author.
Which we do have.
Kalamai. Kalamai. But after that, and seeing the differences in the Maori experience of some of them knew Te Reo Maori, some of them didn't, and really being like, wow, we have a choice right now to really ku'e the kolonio part and to make a choice, like the state's ohana, to be speaking olelo first. And it's also hard for us as a couple because, yes, we met in English. And when you meet in English and then you learn olelo, it's like getting to know someone again, like a totally new factor of someone. And so it's so easy to speak English together and be like, okay, like, it's easier. But really taking the time to, and he's been kind of that Eleo one and being like, no, like, we need to. From kalahiki a kalako, just like, let's do this. And we catch ourselves too, like, nope, gotta, So the moments where you can choose to speak it is already a win too, because it's a choice. It's easy to just keep speaking olelo haole, and that's a language, and we've been forced to master it. But when are the moments when we're choosing to master our own selves and find us in ho'opili to our kupuna? Because when we speak that, then they're like, now I can get it. Now I'm understanding what you're saying. It's been hard. It's definitely hard in relationships. It's hard in school, I think, too, because when you're with your peers from UH or whoever you learn from school, it's like, yeah, we speak it in class, and then right after class is done, we're like, we can just stop. And it's hard when the language is isolated into one specific location. But just the other week, we had a little pa'ina before the mandate. Don't cancel me. But we had a pa'ina, and most of the people were of this generation, and majority of the people speaking was in Olelo, and we all kind of took a step back. We're like, whoa, like this is happening. Those are the moments, like that was the Food Line White Peel moment for me of like, oh my gosh.
And that's a huge compliment because that
happening.
means that they're showing you that I feel safe.
Yeah.
Like at your home, speaking Olelo, and whether I make hema hema or not, like I feel safe, like being able to speak.
And the generations before us have done the work so that we're now here doing it, and there's a lanakila there. It's happening, so yeah.
Absolutely. And I guess if we have the time, follow-up question would be like, do you think that there are any tips out there like for people who are trying but can't really like get past that barrier of like better integrating or even just getting the courage to, say like you said, one word, or even like meeting people and finding that courage to just speak with them even just a little bit?
I can say I feel like there's actually a lot of people that I've met who will tell me like, oh yeah, I learned Hawaiian in high school or a little bit here and there, but I don't have anybody to practice with. And I empathize with that. But then I also feel like there's so many more of us now that there are people for you to practice with. But also, there is a thing where you have to find somebody where you feel safe enough to make mistakes. But I think there are a lot of places now where you can't I think even if you're practicing with yourself, like a lot of times, like we just said, right? Like you and Kaimi making an active choice to speak Hawaiian, Emily and Maluhia, I'm dating myself. Yeah. So that challenge is different, but it's a conscious choice to make.
Talking to yourself in the mirror.
Yes, talk to yourself in the mirror. Look, there are so many moments, and I remember I wasn't even in Uncle Kimo's class, but Uncle Kimo, Alama Keolana, will tell his students, yes, just do it. Like if you need to, and I think we tell our students, if you need to just say one word in your English sentence, do it because it boosts your confidence. And like, I think, like Uncle Kimo said, oh yeah, you get in the elevator. Yeah, just like call me Kipihi and say it like call me Kipihi. Like, I'm pushing the button. Will people look at you funny? Sure, but who cares, right? Like, and I know that that's much easier said from Uncle Kimo's perspective than done. But like, I do it. Like if you're watching Maluhia's video and he's teaching you how to scold your kids, we'll practice it a few times on your phone. and then scold your kids that way. Like, I think collectively we've tried to give people real life sentences, the most applicable thing, because I think, as we all know, learning out of a book sometimes is not as applicable. Like, I don't know, I think they're so stale sometimes, the practice sentences. I'm a big worksheet queen, but, writing Kimo has a purple dog 5 times is different from, like, telling your dog to come here or training your dog in Hawaiian. There are these moments that we just have to remember. I think we get stuck in our heads thinking that we don't have the opportunities, but we do. We just have to make that very conscious decision. Like, even if you're saying, like, can you pass the polopoi? Do it. Instead of just saying, oh, can you pass the poi? Can you pass the bowl? Try it. Like,
Motion,
one thing
they'll figure
at
it
a
out.
time.
Cannot mail over there.
And even saying the word poi. I grew up saying poi. Oh, the poi. We'll get the poi. The poi, all this poi, poi. Yeah. But then just the extra little E, and I tell my students, bite down just a little more, poi, and the speaker's ears that hear it were like, we see you. That was the little points you can get, little kupuna points. Yeah. But unless someone reminds you, if you don't learn, we learn how to pronounce things in one way, and then it's like we don't ever get challenged to just do a little more of this.
Right.
Kailua. I'm sure a lot of kupa and kailua say kailua, which means something very different from kailua. So, mahalo.
Yeah. And speaking of applicable kinds of scenarios, I feel like your videos, I'll like scroll on your page every once in a while, watch your reels, and it's like I'm character A, B, and C, but it's like effectively showing me how to use this sentence structure, and it's like, yeah, like she said, not living out of speaking from a book,
Like I said,
and being
there's
able
nobody
to,
else that's doing it. So you have to play all those parts, and especially
character A and B.
you can jump right in.
Hanakiaka, I think I'll leave that
All
to this
actors
one
out
over
there.
here.
Yeah. The question, about like trying to get people to use it in any way, whether it's like they just learned their first word in Hawaiian, or maybe they've lived here their whole lives and they've learned how to pronounce names of places correctly, or maybe they learned 10 years ago and then they're relearning. Maybe people are at different stages, but when I am posed with that question, I just tell them, like, use what you know. And if you do have to say it in English, that's fine, because you didn't know that word in that sentence you're using just a minute ago. So it's like a thin line, right? It's use what you know, but sometimes the English is a crutch that can be used too long, right? And then we just need, if you don't kick the crutch, I'm gonna kick it for you, right? Right, when you get to that point. No, I mean,
We're not condoning violence on this panel.
No, I mean, like, when you get to that point, right? There's a point where maybe friends that I have, or speakers I know, or even ourselves, where it's like, we know how to speak. I know you know that word. I know you know how to say the rest. Yeah. And so there's the fine line of, yes, use all that you know, but really use all that you know, and don't be ashamed to use it. Or for sometimes it's a little bit of like being lazy. Like sometimes I get lazy to use it. It does take a lot of work, like we were talking about, right? English was our whole life. Now you're making a switch.
And I think it's a give and take too, because
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I might know something, but then like also on the flip side, like, don't be afraid to say that you don't know something, or like if someone
Yeah.
drops a word in Hawaiian in a sentence and I don't know it, I'm like, kalamai, what does that word mean? Like, just like not being ashamed that you don't know something, and then like, okay, that's the word of the day. I'm gonna try and use it in a sentence. I just learned it, so I think
I want to talk about that because I think as like a tip for if you're a speaker, something that you can do is admit when you're wrong or when you make a mistake. Like what you said, like when people see someone, people talk about social media, like people think they know you or they see what you put out, like I said earlier. But when you show them that you make mistakes, or when you admit that you just don't know something, like that, for me, if I see that, it makes me feel safe one. And then two, if I'm the one who's like, I made a mistake, which I have, and when I make a mistake, I'm like, oh, I made a mistake, I said the wrong thing, then I'm keeping myself accountable too. And I think that's really important, is just like, it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah, and it's like sharing your vulnerability with people and
Yeah.
showing that like I'm not afraid to show that I've made a mistake, and I'm acknowledging that I make that mistake, not just gonna brush by it.
Yeah.
And like, okay, hopefully nobody like noticed and was like, shh. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
actually,
but-
it's funny. I'm glad Emily brought it up because I wanted to talk about how what's like so successful for what Emily and Maluhia do, especially Emily, is I think,
Make a lot of mistakes.
okay, full disclosure. Every time Emily makes a video and she's like, Kalamai, I made a mistake on that last one. My Kane corrected me. Number one, I'm like, Maluhia, be nice. But then also, to me, like, I think Emily is so real. Like, it's raw. It's like, you're right. Like, admitting to making mistakes is hard. But what I think it is like when you are able to admit that to thousands of people, what you actually find is that all but two of them resonate with that moment, because you're right. Like, sometimes we have these moments where we're trying to meet a standard, right? And people are afraid to make mistakes. And the thing about it is that you forget that on Instagram, 98% of the population are like Emily. Their moms at home, they're trying to do their best. Sometimes they make mistakes. I swear to God, that's all my Instagram feed is. But like, you know? But I think what I always see in the comments are people like, oh my gosh, thank you for saying something, because I think we are so hard on ourselves sometimes. And you just think at home, like, oh my God, I made a mistake. My kids are gonna speak that way, and oh my God, and you just are in your head, which is, you know, I think we are in the right areas. It's good to be hard on yourself, but I think finding somebody whose story is the same and resonates, and that's what gets people who are just starting, like, really like feeling more confident every day, right? Like, when we're talking about people who are starting, who need that connection with somebody, and I think there are times and places and spaces for, you know, elite language skills. But how are you going to get somebody to, you know, that pie if you can't pie and pie them down here? Right? Like, you have to build them up here so
Absolutely.
they can get here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You give me there could be 100 people in the room and 99 don't believe in you, but all it takes is just one acknowledgement of your mistake, and that's on period. But it's true. I think I have way more respect for people who are like, just own it. You actually seem more confident and be like, that came out and I got it, and just go again. Instead of the pressure that we feel to be like, everything's perfect. I'm good. That will constantly, I think, add up, and then you just feel like, who am I trying to perform for? You know, it's just be real.
Right.
I can't believe I'm going to quote my dad right now, but this was out of context, but in high school, he'd be like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I'm like, I'm not a sports person at all. But this isn't water polo. But it's really like, you will never truly loa kaleo kalanakila if you never even kui that first pua. You know what I mean?
You gotta como the arena.
Yes.
Mahalo on the Kalakasi.
Very shout out. I never thought I would. But it's true. Like, if you just sit back and never actually try and ho'a'o, that olelo will not come to you. If you don't work hard for your olelo will not work hard for you. Puku'i, number 2, 3, 4, 5.
Speaking of, you know, making Hamana feel comfortable and, like, you know, sharing vulnerability, we have a question from the live, and it says, is it up to the kumu to make Hamana feel comfortable learning, or is it the Hamana to seek kumu that they are comfortable with? I know. Mahalo to that question. Don't hold it. Mahalo. Is it up to the kumu to make the haumana feel comfortable, or the other way around? The haumana looking for kumu that they feel comfortable with?
That's a very loaded question.
It is.
That changes with context for me.
Okay.
Maybe you guys go first, and I will distill my thoughts.
Do you have something on there?
I want to say like yes to both. If you have the option to choose a kumu that you're comfortable with, do that. Take that into your control. If you have no option, the other one, the kumu, I think just should. I think that should be part of it. But I think that's going into people's like temperament, right? Some people are a little bit more hard, and in fact, like my family and a lot of mentors that I've had are like that. So I prefer people that are like that. What's interesting is that I don't teach or provide an environment like that at all. But I thrive in an environment like that. I like the pressure. I like to be pushed. But we have to realize that not everybody is like that. So
Everybody has their cup of tea.
yeah, exactly. So that's why I wanted to say yes to both. But I think the kumu one, I mean, that's up to people's opinion. I think that kumu should create an environment where their students are comfortable. And to do that, you have to know your students, right? So some of them may be like me. You could yell at me. You can cuss a little bit, and I'll be like, right on. Some people will be crushed by that, right? I have family that are like that. They cannot handle that. They do not flourish in an environment like that. Those are my thoughts.
I guess I would say to answer the question, I feel like I learned this in marriage to this guy because we are really, really different. But it's never ever one-sided. That question of is it their kuleana or my kuleana? I mean, it's both, always. I think I could sum it up right there. It's on both people. You can't wait for someone else to do it for you. If that's the reason why you're not learning because of the kumu, then that's take some responsibility back. Take back some of that.
It's your kuleana to know yourself. And I'm not thriving with this kumu. I'm not learning. This learning style is not for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people just sit back and they count all their problems.
Yeah.
And Hawaiians, I don't see them as people that just sat back and counted their problems. They're problem solvers. They created fish ponds and carried rocks from one side of the island to the other. We have it in our blood to solve problems. So if you have, if the kumu's not working out for you, then figure something out. And that kumu will. Maybe it works for someone else, or maybe down the road they'll change and do something different. But don't take the kuleana that you have and put it on someone else, because nothing's gonna happen from there.
I believe.
Okay.
I think, continuing off of that, I agree. There's kuleana on both sides. And of course, everyone has their learning style. But I'd like to say that when you a'o, both ways, a'o aku and a'o mai, it's not a necessarily comfortable place. I mean, there's so much going on in your body, spiritually, emotionally, physiologically, when you're learning a language, especially one that's in your genealogy. A lot of growth is not comfortable. I think in a sense that, yes, you feel safe. You feel like, I feel ready to go through that change with this person. And that journey is different from if you're comfortable the whole time in your Hawaiian language journey, then perhaps there's not a lot of growth, because I'm I feel good, I'm in my shell.
Yep.
Honu is here and she's in the sea, whatever. Sure, yes. But when you find a kumu that is willing to work hard and to be I'm on this journey with you, I tell my students too, your kumu should never be working harder than you for your own education. And if they're working hard, then you got to match it, and you got to be KY, okay, mahalo, I'm meeting you there, and I'm going just taking all of that, and thank you, right? Not just, I think in a Western sense, it's I come to this class, give me the syllabus, give me the information, meet my course objectives, and then I get a grade, and then it's a passive kind of receptive thing, not necessarily what am I putting into the kumu and to this class too, what am I giving to them.
Right.
A'o includes teaching and learning all in the same moment.
I think I agree with parts of what everybody said. I'm a loina person. Loina is very important to me. So there's two ways to think about that I think there's multiple situations today of a kumu haumana relationship. Traditionally, in a halau setting, maybe you choose to be there, or maybe you were not chosen to be there. And I think in different arenas like hula and other things outside of a classroom, like a Western classroom setting, as a haumana, you make a commitment to that kumu and their style. And you are locked into that until you decide to leave or you're released. And I think Akea's right. Sometimes we have to be uncomfortable to learn. And I think as a haumana, your kuleana to your kumu is a commitment also to make sure that although you might be uncomfortable, are you giving it your all to learn? Like it's not quite a learning style difference. Like, are you trying to be lazy about it? You know, are you going to take the kumu that you know are always going to be nice to you, even though you walk in half an hour late? And, you know, like that's lazy. But I think in those arenas, I feel like it's not for you to choose as a haumana. You don't get that choice. But I do know, like, I feel that in a classroom. I've been in classrooms that I thrive in rigor, actually. Like, I like to push the boundaries of what I know or what I'm being asked to analyze. And I actually don't thrive in classrooms that are more lax and loose. So I know that for myself, but I think reflecting back on my own classroom settings, kumu and haumana, yeah, I think if you feel like your learning style is more suitable with another kumu and you have the privilege of having a choice, you know, do you?
There's a difference between comfort and safe.
Yeah, and there is definitely
Are we striving for
a
comfort,
difference.
or are we striving for progression?
And even in classrooms that I have been the most frustrated and upset, I think looking back,
You grew.
that kumu did have things for me to learn. You know, and maybe I was too egotistical in the time to calm myself down and or even vocalize like what can I do to improve? Why do I feel so upset here? But sometimes like the kumu that I thought were so ridiculously over the top with their requirements, I have learned the most from. Like some things are second nature because I went through that. So I think it depends on what situation you're trying to navigate. Are you navigating a classroom situation where you're paying tuition and you need to get a grade, you know, and you have the privilege of choice? Or are you a halau hopper, which is like not ideal, you know, but you know, maybe you have commitment issues. You know, yeah, I think it's such a complicated question that has a different answer for each situation.
Right. And I feel like that's a good segue into, you know, talking about future projects. You know, I feel like everybody knowing themselves and, yeah, being able to know what you're looking for and being able to acknowledge where you need more growth, and I think is really important. But yeah, I think I wanted to ask you just to close up, you know, Kaia, about your new project, Paige, your new show on HPR, right? And, you know, your guys' plans for content building and stuff like that. Yeah, but.
So currently in the Hawaiian theater program, there's 2 Hanakiaka, or Hawaiian language productions, starting off the season with Kaipu Baker's He Leo Aloha. That opens in the first week of October, so it's going to be streaming online, so anyone can watch. For more information, no, like shameless plug. For more information, visit. So that's going to be at Kennedy Theater, and then ending the season will be my thesis production called Ho'oilina, and that will be in April. And that one is Hawaiian language, but also has a little pa'iai, a little mahu. It's a hoot and a holler. But so stay tuned for those if you're interested in hearing olelo outside of the home in different stories and kind of from different voices. That's definitely an opportunity to hear and get more accustomed to. And then, yeah, that's me.
Yep, I have a new radio show on Hawaii Public Radio. It's on Sundays from 6 to 7 p.m. It's called Hawaii Kulaivi. So I was given the opportunity to have my own Hawaiian show. I didn't have one until now. But, I think when I was trying to flesh out my ideas for the show is that with an understanding that my audience who listens to Hawaii Public Radio is 98% not Hawaiian, much less 99% not Hawaiian speaking, not Hawaiian familiar anything, that's just what I assume going into things. So I look at this show as a chance to broaden that 2% audience by either bringing in more, Kanako Lelo Hawaii, just Hawaiian people, or even that converting part of that 98% to take a deep look, like
Future Homana.
future home, anybody. I think what I am sort of, what I guess in the radio industry here locally, I'm kind of tired of a very surface level exposure. And I think it's become so obvious in the comments of anything. I make it a point, like, bless Maluhia's heart. I cannot deal with people attacking me. I can't, I actually don't have it in me. It takes out too much. So, but I think when you look in the comments of anything these days, when Kuhaheo came out in the video form, there were so many people saying, how dare Robert Casimiro sing in this video? I will no longer be buying his albums. I will throw them all away. Like, it's strong. The hatred is strong. Yeah. And the racism is strong. And it's just blew my mind that people today, I shouldn't have been surprised, can basically listen to Hawaiian music because it's pretty, it sounds good, it goes well with their evening cocktails. And then when a Hawaiian talks about what they've been singing, you just didn't know this whole time what they were saying, like suddenly it's a big offense. Like, how dare you talk about what you've been singing to me about, right? And I feel like we have to change that narrative. So it's not helpful to listen to just what's on a CD. It's not helpful to listen to things just because they sound nice. Like, the goal of the show is, let me play you, first of all, a lot of older recordings than you're used to. But also, let me tell you what's there, because I understand that most of you don't speak Hawaiian, but I'm going to tell you what you're missing because you don't. Like, let me tell you about what our kupuna have been saying, like what are in our mele 3, 4, 5 layers in. And that you can say that you love Hawaii, or you love living here, or you love that you retired here. Which is great. I'm glad you do. But what is that like? What does Hawaiian love for land look like, right? Hawaii Kulaivi. This is our home. And I think that love for home is how we see each other in mele. It's how we talk about the love we have for someone else. It's how we talk about the love we have for place. And so that's what I'm trying to do in this show that's only 1 hour long on Sundays with your dinner cocktails. So that just started. So you can catch it on Sundays from 6 to 7 p.m. on HPR 1.
We're going to be tuning in to that one for sure.
Yes, you see, I'm broadening the 98%.
Future projects. So actually, Paige, I'm like you, and I wish I was more. When you put things out on social media, you're going to get people who aren't so enthusiastic about the things you have to say. And Malu is very good at taking that, but I'm not. And it really hits me, and we get that. We'll get people who don't like what we're doing or something we said, or and I just actually a few weeks ago got a really, really hateful message, and it really, really got to me. Like, I was very sad about it for a few weeks, and I was, but I'm grateful for it because something that this person said was, you're just a privileged, you're just like a privileged Hawaiian, and you're flaunting your privilege around and making people feel ashamed that they don't speak. And it was a big point at like how much privilege I got, because I guess out of context, I was sharing how hard it is to live in Hawaii and how hard you have to work, and how like my parents worked so hard to give me this privilege. And so this person was anyways the experience showed me made me think about my privilege, because I never deny that I have had privilege. My parents worked so hard so that I could go to Kamehameha and school in general, and I have been privileged to learn Hawaiian, like I think you said earlier, Paige, and I'm privileged to have gifts of I can sketch things and paint things and give clip art. And so my future project is, and I've kind of started doing it, is I want to dig into mo'olelo of Hawaii's history. Of I've been reading things by Haunani Trask, which are just amazing, and honestly finding people that I didn't necessarily think I related to before, but when I read their things, I find so much that I do connect with, and I want to use my art to put stories into pictures. And I think people do, especially with social media, they do really well when there's something to see. And sometimes you can give someone an article and they won't even look at it, but if you give them like little pictures that they can swipe and look at, then they're all over that. So
my makua absolutely loved that little la hoi hoi
yeah,
pictures that you were drawing, where the little poihaole is like wiping his
I did.
ear, like,
I do add in a
poor
little
me,
bit.
poor ting, but
definitely a little bit of sass in me.
No,
but so a future project that I have, and I'm grateful for those kinds of messages you get, because obviously it was coming from someone who was hurting inside, but it pointed out to me that I can be doing more, and I always believe I can be doing more. So my future project, I want to dive into stories and history and give pictures and faces so that people want to learn more about Hawaii and all of that.
Absolutely.
If I were you, I would have just been like, "Are you looking at my account or Ka'alala?"
Forwarding to the next account. Forwarding.
Actually, I told you. But the thing is sometimes I get messages that are directed at him, but they send it to me because they just have nicer. He's not very nice. I don't mean it like that. It's just I think they just know that it won't hit him, so they send it to his wife. Anyways, it's funny. They definitely do that.
For future projects, I'm actually gonna work with her on those. When she put out the La Hoi Hoi Ea one out, she didn't really tell me. She told me like, I just woke up really early. I went to the office and I started going, and then I put it out. And I was like, but I could have like collaborated with you a little bit, because then on mine I added like voice to it. So it's in English, right? All those pictures, but then I just like kind of did a rough translation of it in Hawaiian, right? So people can hear it, and so they can think like, oh, I'm understanding Hawaiian. I'm reading English. So we're probably going to collab and do a lot more of those together. So you get kind of.
And your podcast, which you guys have also.
And then the podcast is probably I've done it. I've had a podcast for a while, but it's just been audio, and I have like a very small number of diehard fans. But just like she was talking about, like if people can see a picture or a video, I mean, that draws people in a lot more today than like newspapers did back in the 1800s, right? Now it's, whatever you can see on your phone. So my podcast that I put video to, I actually initially thought that I was going to only invite certain people, but I decided not to do that because, as you can see, like in this like discussion that we're having, when you take different people and their experiences surrounding the same topic, which is the Hawaiian language, I mean, everybody is connecting with somebody right now that I can't connect with, and then vice versa. So I decided to not just have like my own voice, and sometimes Emily would be on there, and then I interviewed a few mentors of me, but now I'm starting to look out and interview just any speaker, really. I had one come last week who she's like, am I the first like normal person that you have on here? And I was like, what do you mean? And I was, because I had like someone like Tuti Kanahele, who's very big in the Hawaiian language community. And I said, no, you are a speaker of the language, and this is before the podcast, and whatever, you may think you're not at this level, but you are at a level. you can carry a conversation. And she's like, yeah, but I might say some wrong things. I was like, I say wrong things all the time. Maybe you just didn't catch it. But I'm inviting all these people on there to get everybody's voice. And it's also to really, a page is talking about a shallow, what is that? A shallow exposure of the language. But now it's, I can bring these people in, and that's a way to really show, like, I went to high school with this girl. I did not know that she speaks. Right, and people are going to start to experience that a little bit more. So that's the current but future project that I'm working on, is my podcast on YouTube.
No, and I wanted to just thank all of you for being here with me today. And, we've shifted things virtually, but I feel like outside of having like an in-person audience, like how your guys' classes have 30,000 viewers.
Okay,
I'm hoping to have.
That was the good days. That was the good days.
Now these people work now. So
Right.
they will
But
come back and watch it later.
it's been amazing to be able to reach virtually through the networks, and have this available for people to watch. And it's been such a pleasure. Hope you guys had fun.
Mahalo for having us.
Oh yeah, mahalo yaoi. And
Ahui ho.
Ahui ho,
Ahui ho.
malamopono. 322
Wow.
shaka.
Thank you for tuning in.